Greetings, creepy companions. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Fright Life. In this episode, we will review. So this past weekend, I went to Orlando to enjoy the start of the Halloween season. And to be honest, I wasn't sure there was even going to be a season this year with amusement park event cancellations. And also, depending on what state you're in, some of the local haunts may not be able to open. And the ones that do open are having to adjust quite a bit to be able to compensate for some of the, COVID-19 social distancing and all of that. So when I first heard about the haunted road, it gave me, and obviously so many others, so much hope. So my initial thoughts about this when I heard about it, aside from being very excited, was a little bit of concern because for them to be able to do this and open this up in 4 to 6 weeks was very ambitious. And for those of you who go to a lot of haunted attractions, whether they're local or the bigger ones, you know that they do this months in advance. They're building sets months in advance, costumes, makeup, all of that stuff is done months in advance, if not over a year in advance. So to hear about this at the end of July, and then in addition, if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw like a Kickstarter or something, this was truly a startup. And 4 to 6 weeks just did not seem like enough time to me, but I was rooting for them and I definitely wanted them to succeed because it was the first thing to give me hope that we were going to have a great Halloween season. This was a great idea, drive-through haunt. I mean, it's a perfect idea given the COVID environment. So I decided that I would go ahead and buy tickets to the Haunted Road and make a weekend of it in Orlando and maybe go to one of the theme parks. I did end up hearing about another drive-through haunt, which I will review at a later time. And so I was going to make a whole weekend of this, and I was completely excited about it. One of the things I need to bring up, though, there has been a little bit of discussion about who came up with the idea for a drive-through haunt. I don't know if it was the Haunted Road first. I don't know if it's one of the others that I've heard about, but regardless, this is the first one that I saw. And it's really what made me want to go to Orlando and made me hopeful for Halloween. I followed the Haunted Road's Facebook page, and they had some pretty regular posts, and eventually there was a post about the tickets going on sale. So as soon as the tickets went on sale, I clicked through the Facebook page, got to the website, and like most local haunts, there's a calendar on there that tells you obviously the dates that they're going to be having the event and then the pricing. Pricing ranged anywhere from $15 to $30 per person. There's a main night event. There's daytime family-friendly events. They also have an unrestricted 18-plus-year-old event. That's the first weekend in November. And in addition, there was also a $79 VIP package, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. The next thing I looked for was information about where they were located and what the process was going to be like to check in, like how does this drive-through thing work? So I went to their FAQ page. When I got to the FAQ page, the first section is really about safety, and then the next section is about tickets and the arrival process. So when you buy your tickets, you were required to buy a specific time. So one of the things that they address is there's a question here that says, when I get there, what's the check-in and entrance process? And to quote, it says, please plan to arrive no more than 5 minutes prior to your assigned time. Space is limited at the entrance, so if you arrive earlier, please leave the premises and come back within 5 minutes of your scheduled time. Upon arrival, our team will get you checked in by scanning the QR code located in your confirmation email. And it goes on a little bit further. And then the very next section, it says, since there are specific entrance times, what happens if I'm early or late? And it says, please plan to arrive no more than 5 minutes prior to your assigned time. Space is limited at the entrance, so if you arrive early, you'll be directed to drive around and come back within 5 minutes of your scheduled time. Tickets are non-refundable, non-exchangeable, and extremely time-based, so if you arrive late, unfortunately, you won't be able to enter the event. There are multiple places on their site where they talk about this. So I bring this up because it's going to play a big part in why so many people were upset with what happened this last weekend. With my tickets purchased and some general information about where they were located in Orlando, I was able to start scheduling and planning all of the other things that I wanted to do that weekend. I ended up choosing Saturday for the Haunted Road because I was going to be driving in from 6 hours away on Friday, and I was really concerned that if I picked Friday and I missed my time, I'd lose my money and I would miss the event. So Saturday seemed to make the most sense to me. I had the most control over my schedule that day. With all of that said and done and out of the way, I continued to watch social media. I kept an eye out for their posts. I looked at their website fairly regularly. And I have to say that their marketing was nothing less than stellar. The person in charge of this marketing did an amazing job. It was so professionally done. The images, the photo shoots that they must have done to come up with these images, they were just amazing. They were dark, they were creepy. They definitely got across the kind of the emotion of like really scary. You're going to be freaked out. This looks like really horrifying. The videos that they put together, their commercials that they posted on there, just extremely well done. Very, very professional. And it was clear they were going after like Halloween Horror Nights guests. People who are really into horror and Halloween and haunts and all of that. And like I said, the marketing was just amazing. When we got to Orlando, there was even some billboards. So they obviously spent a ton of money on marketing between the billboards and all the social media posts and sponsored ads. And it's just, they clearly put money into marketing and they were very, very successful. And the person in charge did an amazing job. So what's interesting is after I was done with the event on Saturday, I went back onto the website because I really wanted to know who was involved with this event. And I definitely wanted to know who the marketing person was. So I saw this woman there and they had her resume listed, and it's an extensive resume. She has done some really big events and worked for some really big clients. And the one that really caught my attention was she worked for Halloween Horror Nights. So there you go. I mean, she clearly knew her audience. She had the experience. She knew what to go after and what was going to attract our attention. And she truly did an amazing job. So one of the problems, though, was that you will see later is there was a disconnect between what she was doing and what the creative team was doing. She did her job. She attracted the people she was trying to attract. She did a very professional job with everything else, like I said. But what was coming across in those images and all of that marketing was not what you ended up seeing at the actual event. Over the weeks leading up to last weekend, in retrospect, there were definitely some things that were coming across on social media that were kind of a foreshadowing of what was about to happen on opening weekend. One of the things, like I had said, was Kickstarter. The fact that this is such an ambitious project, you're 4 to 6 weeks out and you're asking for money, that's a concern because putting together a good haunt takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. So that was a concern. The other thing that came up is sometime in late August, I was seeing some comments about the entertainers and performers not being compensated properly or at all. And apparently there was a lot of those concerns to the point where the Haunted Road had a whole separate post on there addressing the concerns. And then if you go back, it's still there. You can look at all of the comments. I don't know exactly what happened. I didn't see any sort of resolution. The Haunted Road is saying that there was some sort of compensation. I don't know. But again, with the controversy of that and the fact that they had to have a whole separate post, that's also a little bit of foreshadowing about there's some problems. And then this past Friday was supposed to be opening day. And they, put a post up, something like, are you ready? And it's here, it's about to begin. And then turns out they end up canceling the event. And why people were so upset and they were putting comments on that post about, hey, are you ready? They were upset because it was so last minute. There were people who said, hey, I've been driving from hours away. I'm within, an hour of your property and now you're canceling? Like, I created a whole weekend out of this. There were just a lot of complaints about how it was handled. The Haunted Road didn't come on right away to address the problems. They eventually did, but it wasn't an immediate thing and it was very vague and it was clear to me anyway, if I was reading between the lines, that they certainly And understandably, we're trying to retain their money and maybe reschedule people. And some of the people were upset because they're like, I can't take more time off. I can't come back in a couple of weeks. I was coming from far away. So that was not a good start to the weekend. So now we've got a few things that, like I said, are foreshadowing of problems to come. On Saturday, I was at Disney Hollywood Studios during the day, and the park was going to be closing at 8 o'clock. My time wasn't until after 9, so there should be plenty of time for me to get from Disney to the Haunted Road, but again, did not want to be late. Was not allowed to be late, so I would rather be early. We ended up getting there about 40 minutes before our time. I mean, it took a lot less time than I had thought. And so we killed some time. We hung out, we went to get something to eat, and then we followed our GPS going back to the Haunted Road, and we immediately came upon stopped traffic, completely stopped. And I'm looking at my GPS and going, well, we're not even that close to this event. So I go on to the Haunted Road social media page to see if there's any updates, if anything's happened. And I'm already thinking about, well, I wonder this whole pipe burst thing. I think maybe there's something going on tonight. I don't know. And as soon as I opened up that social media, oh my goodness, the volume of comments on their post. They had a post on there that was about being sold out, and tons of comments were already in there about, I've been waiting in line for an hour. It's not fair. There's people coming in from a side road and they're cutting into the line. It's making us take longer. What happens if I miss my time? You said if I miss my time, I lose my money. Well, I've been sitting in traffic for an hour, so I'm not going to make my time. I mean, you can go back and look at a lot of these comments, and it was happening in real time. All these people sitting there. And I can tell you, at the end of the day, it took us 2.5 hours to get to the gate, to get in and to be checked in. Some of these people, over 3 hours. Traffic was backed up so far. I was truly in shock that there were not police officers everywhere, because it was just a cluster. Anybody that lived in that neighborhood, there was no way they were getting in and out of their homes. People are literally sitting. Traffic is just not even moving. You started seeing cars like jumping out of line to just leave. Other cars, apparently, I'd seen this, but I didn't know that this is exactly what was happening. I've heard from other people now that people would jump out of line so pissed off that they'd been waiting, that they got out of line, went on the opposite, going in the wrong direction on the other side of the road to cut to the front of the line because they were just tired of waiting. It was just a nightmare. People were just so angry. And what I can't understand is, you have a whole team of professional people, and operationally, this was a disaster. And I don't know how much truth there is to this, but there have been conversations in the comments that people think that perhaps the Haunted Road offered times for Saturday for people who were supposed to come Friday, and that might be what caused the backup. There definitely was some people who got, and I guess they were picked randomly from what I understand, they got emails saying, hey, come an hour later. We need you to come an hour later. So this was happening on Saturday night. Again, a lot of these people were coming from further away. They were already on the way. I can't come late. I'm already there. So, and I remember seeing a post from somebody else saying, oh, well, how can I come an hour later? My other friends are coming in another car, and we were going to be coming at the same time. So now we're not going to be there at the same time. It was a mess. It looked like they were trying to remedy this insane amount of unmanaged traffic by trying to get people to come later. But in all honesty, that wouldn't have made a difference anyway. At 1 o'clock in the morning, there was still a line of 50 plus cars trying to get into this haunt. There was no signage leading into this haunt to even know if you were going to the right place. I mean, you could look at your GPS, but typically with a haunt, you'll see signage leading up to it so you don't miss it. You know you're close, what's coming up. But all these people, after hours of waiting in their car, now are not only hungry, a lot of them, like myself, needed to use the restroom. And one of the other things that was said on their FAQ page was, there's no bathrooms. You need to, basically, in short, plan ahead, pee before you go, do whatever you got to do. But when you get here, you're in the car, you're not getting out, and you're stuck, is what it came down to. Cut to Saturday night, people waiting for 3 hours in line. And then once you actually get to the haunt takes about 40 minutes or so to get through. People were livid. I was seeing comments about they were going to pop a squat on the side of the road. I wasn't sure what I was going to do because I certainly had to go to the bathroom. So this just kept piling up and piling up and piling up. So for anybody who's worked in the hospitality business or in tourist attractions, when you start something out that bad, it just kind of snowballs downhill because you've already got everybody upset. But at least all these people who were waiting, a lot of us were saying, well, we're already here. We've already waited in line. This should be great. Let's just go through. Let's get to this event. Let's see it. Let's see what it's about. Lucky for us, we got to the front of the line and were able to start going through the haunt about 2.5 hours after we got in that lovely line of cars. So we made out better than many. So then we get into the show. So as we're getting into the show and they're getting ready to check us in, tell us how it works. There was a lovely girl at the front and I just looked at her and she just was saying, I'm so sorry. And, you'll have a great time. And she's telling me she was the nicest, most empathetic person. And all I could think of, this poor girl is probably getting a verbal lashing from some of these people who just don't know who to talk to and vent to. So I felt so bad. And obviously I was very nice to her and told her have a good evening. And so for all of these people out there who are listening, if you worked at the haunt, if you're one of those operational people that were directing traffic at the haunt from scene to scene, greeting people at the front, handling the admissions, you all were amazing. You were absolutely amazing. You should be applauded, not only because you had to deal with all this nonsense until the wee hours of the morning, but the fact that you could stay so nice and so patient with people who were angry and you had genuine empathy. There's definitely something to be said for all of you and who you are as people. So thank you very much for that. So once we started going into the haunt, you drive your cars and the best way I could describe it is theater in the round. I don't know who decided that this format would be best. I can tell you it was not best. If you're going to do theater in the round, you have got to have the stage in the middle and it has to be seen from all the way around. And the performers need to be performing to everyone. Everybody needs to see what's going on. I can tell you firsthand that some of the scenes that we went to, we were literally behind the set. The set was tall. The person was on the other side of it. We could kind of sort of see through some of the wood and parts of the set, but I couldn't see anything. And at the end of the day, if people are coming out to a haunt or to any show, if you can't see it, then you've already failed. I am paying to see something and I can't even see it. That's a problem. Maybe it wasn't theater in the round. It wasn't 360 degrees. Maybe it was 320 degrees. But regardless, that's a problem. And the way that it was laid out on the website was that when you buy those VIP tickets that you're going to get preferred placement. Your car will get preferred placement so you have the best view. Yeah, there was none of that. It was just that big circle. And as soon as you got through the circle and they told you to stop, you had to turn off your car, turn off your lights, and kind of watch the scene. And there was a huge delay from getting everybody in line to when the scene actually started. I am not sure why there was this long delay. It just didn't make any sense, especially as you went from scene to scene to scene. It loses some of its continuity. Even though it only took a few minutes for us to get to the next scene, we're all stopped, our lights are off, and we're waiting. And we're like, okay, is it not happening? Like, it gets to be awkward. There's just nothing going on. And you think, okay, maybe something's not working. There was just too big of a gap between when the cars were stopped and lights were turned off and when the next scene would start. So that was a problem. The other thing that's a challenge is the audio. I've heard a lot of people complain about they couldn't hear things very well. And the way that they did the sound was you tune into a radio station. And each scene, there was a different radio station number to turn into. So let's say the first scene, you're supposed to turn into you're dialed to 101.2. The scene finishes, and then you go to the next scene, and there's a sign. Most of the scenes you went to had a sign. Some you couldn't see that well, and some of the traffic people that were directing everybody where to go would tell you what station to turn into. So then the next station you might be at 94.5. So every single scene you went to, you had to tune to another radio station. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But one of the reasons why they did this, I'm assuming, is they pre-recorded the whole show. And so the actors were all lip syncing to everything. So if the sound wasn't working well, or the radio station wasn't coming in, like some guests have said, or I can't even see the actors, I might be hearing some of it, but I can't even see them on some of the scenes. It's just, that causes a problem. Can't see it, can't hear it. Why are we even here? That is a serious problem. The other challenge, logistically speaking, is they were trying to cram so much into a small space. The paths that you were driving on were really narrow. I have a compact SUV, and we struggled a little bit, but there were some really big cars that I'm not, and trucks, I'm not sure how they made that work. But there was it just didn't make sense. The way that it was set up, logistically speaking, it just didn't work, and it was confusing for people, and you couldn't see things and you couldn't hear things. That alone, aside from the traffic, that alone is a failure. When you look at the Haunted Road from a creative perspective, meaning the performing side, the production side of it, there are some serious problems. This isn't a haunt. It isn't even a haunt as the name implies. It's a dark fairy tale taken from the stage to a field at a ranch. It's a play that's a little darker than you'd probably hear in maybe elementary school or junior high. It just wasn't scary. It's a twisted fairy tale theme, and that theme didn't translate in the marketing. There's a disconnect there. You see little hints of it here and there, but it was far, far darker in the marketing, and what we got in person was a little more campy. There really weren't a lot of scares. There just weren't. On a few of the scenes, there were some people running around that would come up to your car and look at you in the window. Not that scary. Even if you got a jump scare out of it, everything else wasn't scary. So you're not delivering to the audience that you were going after. So you get this audience that's really into horror and Halloween and is excited about all the scary stuff, and all your marketing talks about how scary it is. And then you get a play that's like a twisted fairy tale, but it's not that scary. That's a problem. It was really disappointing to a lot of people. So now you've waited in line and you've gotten to this show and it's a play. That's not what people are expecting. And it's ambitious, but it's also misguided to think that a dramatic play will be well received by people wanting and expecting a scary haunted attraction. And that's how it was marketed, scary. Their words were blood-curdling screams, seal your fate. One of the things they said is, if the eyes are windows to the soul, yours will reveal fear living inside. And the marketing images match that. That is not what happened when you got to the actual Haunted Road and watched this show. The sets were, they were just mediocre. And again, you couldn't see them from all angles. Some of them, if you're setting up theater in the round, I need to be able to see it from every place around that entire circle. And that just wasn't happening. And I was sitting on the driver's side. I wanted the person driving to drive so that I could video and take pictures and not be focused on the driving and be focused on what was going on. And from the passenger side, if the scene was set up on the driver's side, it was very difficult to see from the passenger side and vice versa. And so if you're going to do something like this, and it's a great concept, but if you can't see it and you don't know what's going on, it doesn't work. The best thing they could have done is set this up like each scene like a drive-in theater, and then done like they said with the VIP packages, and put the people who paid more get like the front row seats, so to speak, with their vehicles, and those of us who paid the regular price are in the back. But at least all the action's in front of you so that you can see what's going on. And again, just not scary. There was really just nothing scary about it. The acting was okay, but the storyline wasn't very good. So you can't really blame the actors because they did the best they could with what they had to work with. It's also very important for me to note that these actors stayed well past the time that they probably were expecting to. I'm going to guess that their call time was probably close to 5 or 6 o'clock. And like I said, there were still 50 cars in line at like 1 o'clock. So I'm guessing that they were there till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning performing without a break, just out in the middle of this field doing this stuff. Like, that really takes some dedication, and their commitment went above and beyond what most people would have done in that same situation. Why those people did not walk off the job, I do not know. I ended up leaving the Haunted Road early. And part of the reason for that was I was feeling a little bit under the weather, but in addition to that, I really had to go to the bathroom. And so I asked one of the attendants if there was any possible way to get out of this line, because it's literally a line of cars and you can't get out until the whole thing is over. And I said, how many scenes are left? And she said, well, there's 3 scenes left. After this scene, there's an emergency exit, and I guess most people didn't know about it. They weren't trying to promote it, and she said that there's a bathroom there. So when you get to that other scene, tell the attendant that you really need to leave. She's like, but once you leave, and you can't come back into line again. And I can understand that. There's a huge line of people still waiting to get into this event, and it's way past the hours that it was supposed to be going on. So once you get out, you're out. And honestly, it would have been very difficult, logistically speaking, to get me back in that line because it was just such a cluster of cars. So she and the next attendant were nice enough to direct me to, there was like one porta potty. I don't know if it was for the staff or what it was for. They had said there were no bathrooms, but clearly there was one. Although once I got to that porta potty, there was no toilet paper and it smelled like alcohol and puke. It is what it is. It's Halloween, people party. I was just happy to have a bathroom. So truth be told, I didn't stay all the way to the end. And as soon as we pulled out, I saw this long line of cars. I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea when these people are going to get in. Are they going to cut off the line? Are they going to let every single person in? Like, there's another 50 cars left in line, and it's after 1 o'clock in the morning. This is crazy. And I continued all night and into the next day watching the comment threads on all of these posts from the Haunted Road that weren't really meant for complaining, but people were using them to complain about how long they sat and all the things that happened, and they wanted their money back. And just, it was brutal. There were very few people that were saying good things. It was absolutely brutal. And one of the things I said that night when this was done and we were back at the hotel, I said, something that's this big of a disaster, they're really going to have to do something big to stop the bleeding, so to speak. To me, the first thing that needed to happen was they needed to step up and admit that they made mistakes, that they messed up, and that they wanted to get better, and they needed to apologize. I said that right from the jump Sunday morning. I said, if this doesn't happen, they have no chance of salvaging this whatsoever. And I really didn't expect a formal apology. I knew what needed to happen, but I wasn't expecting one. Because based on the comments I was seeing, it was almost like a disingenuous kind of roundabout apology, but things happen and all that kind of stuff. And they really weren't taking full ownership, at least not the person responding on the Haunted Road, in my opinion. It was rather vague. So I was very happy to see today that the principal person in charge of the Haunted Road actually posted on their blog, on their website, an apology. And here is some of it. First things first, I'm very sorry this past Saturday night was a disappointing experience for many. We're as disappointed as you are. The night was very far from what we had envisioned, in part due to it being the very first night and the challenges that came with that, plus additional issues such as being over capacity. We've heard your feedback and we're working around the clock to make changes and improve. The changes we're making include reduced capacity each event night, which will help with the wait times, not only to enter the event, but also will help you move from scene to scene faster. We're also tweaking the show to give you more of those scares we know you're looking for. And the apology goes on and it talks about if you never made it in, they will actually give you a refund. And they're encouraging people who did get to go through to stay in touch with them, or I don't know if they're going to reach out to those of us that were there on Saturday night. And they said, you can go another night free of charge to show that they've, made changes and things are good and they can try to make it right. So I give them a lot of credit for that they did post an apology and they took some ownership of the problems and things that happen. But it's a start. And it's really the only way they will recover from a sea of bad reviews and angry comments on social media. It's a start. But honestly, this isn't just opening night challenges with some minor tweaks needed, because yes, that happens at any event or any show. We all make mistakes. There's learning curves. Most people can forgive and understand little things. Nothing's ever going to go perfect. You would like it to, but there's always things that you can do better. But unfortunately, that is not what happened here. The Haunted Road had numerous major problems, and it all added up to an epic failure. How is the team so experienced, but the event was so bad from just about every angle? It is truly mind-boggling. Check out the blog on their webpage. This team has an amazing resume and had every reason to succeed. So was it just a case of well-meaning people with lack of haunt experience and a lot of creative and monetary ambition that got in over their heads? Did they not understand their audience? The people they were trying to attract wanted something super scary and not a play. That's really the only thing I can think of. I have no doubt that they never wanted or expected this to fail. Why would anybody get involved in something that they knew would fail? As a person with a theater degree, event planning experience, and a former performer, if it were me, I would be crushed that I let everybody down. And I'm guessing that is how most of the people involved are feeling. I can't imagine a creative person that doesn't feel some sort of attachment to their product and feel bad when they disappoint others. So I'm happy to have read the apology today and that they're taking some ownership of their failure and that they're taking some of the feedback to heart to try to salvage their event. It is a good start, but in all honesty, I really just think it's just an overwhelming amount of problems and fatal flaws that there's just not enough time to fix all of these problems. And with comments like, if 2020 were a haunted attraction, it would be the Haunted Road. And the Haunted Road is the Fire Festival of haunted attractions. And this is from attendees. This is things that were in the comments after all of this went down or during this, while this was going down. I'm just not sure how the Haunted Road can completely recover their reputation. And I give them a lot of credit for trying. I just think it's a really high hill or mountain to climb. And I just don't know that that's possible given the short period of time. To wrap this all up with an orange and black bow, I really was excited for this. I love that they were providing a solution, an alternative when COVID had everyone's normal Halloween plans basically in the toilet. I mean, it's what prompted me to make a 6-hour drive. I wanted it to succeed, but it didn't. And they now have me and hundreds of Halloween and haunt lovers out there angry and disappointed and sharing that experience. It was a nightmare for many of us, but not the nightmare that we all thought we were getting. So tell me, what do you think? Were you there? Do you know anybody that was involved in this production? Do you have tickets for another weekend and you're still looking forward to it? Or do you have tickets and you're hesitant to go now and are hoping they'll refund you? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for joining me, and please like and subscribe to the Fright Life YouTube channel for more details from each week's episode. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, my fiendish friends, Madame Grimhilda Macabre will be disinterring more cadaverous ways for all of us to be consumed by the Fright Life.